Colorado Geological Survey was very grateful to be included in the National Geothermal Data System project. Unfortunately, we had a somewhat rocky ride during the execution of the project as we were threatened with closure during year one and have been struggling to survive throughout the project. Next slide, please. However, given an opportunity to work on geothermal in Colorado with features such as shown here, I think asking for sympathy is a little out of line. Colorado does not have the most productive geothermal resources, but it has some of the most interesting and beautiful resources to study. Next slide, please. The Colorado Geological Survey has been collecting and compiling geothermal data seriously since the early to mid-1970s. Funding for CGS to study this resource has fluctuated greatly during the past 40 years, but there was a substantial body of geothermal information available in the survey at the start of the NGDS project. Next slide, please. I joined the CGS a couple of years before the start of the project and brought basic geothermal equipment to the survey, including a temperature logging system and laboratory equipment. This equipment allowed CGS to supplement the collection and compilation of existing data, and the project was filled with new field and laboratory measurements. Next slide, please. With a history of compiling and serving the public with geothermal data, the CGS was in a position to see opportunities to provide derivative products as the data were compiled for the NGDS project. For example, as the Colorado geothermal bibliography was compiled, the observation was made that a substantial fraction of the documents in the bibliography were state and federal publications with no copyright. Therefore, make these documents available online, most at no cost. We discovered that standard drilling correct bottom hole temperatures, as Will Gosnold observed, were inapplicable to Colorado data. New corrections were therefore derived where possible for individual basins. Published heat flow data from different sources had different corrections. There's been a long-standing battle between Wyoming and New Mexico, who made most of the measurements in Colorado, over how to do the data. However, we worked hard to try and produce the first normalized table of heat flow data for Colorado. Temperature gradient maps derived from bottom hole temperatures in Colorado showed gradients that were laterally variable because the temperatures derived from different depths and different lithologic columns. We therefore produced a series of maps dividing the temperatures by stratigraphic depth rather than physical depth at which the temperatures were measured. Next slide, please. The collection of geothermal data led to requests from local and federal government agencies to participate in meetings in which these data were relevant to citizen concerns or decisions. The largest hot spring in Colorado is Yampa Hot Spring, with a discharge of about 1,000 gallons per minute at a temperature of 50 degrees C. The swimming pool heated from this spring is shown here. Discharge from this spring is only about half the discharge from the system. The geothermal spring water is very saline, a point source of salt into the Colorado River. Understanding the geothermal system is a major contribution to studying this natural salinization of the river. As Colorado River goes all the way down into Mexico, understanding, trying to reduce the salinization is very important. Next slide, please. There was interest in geothermal information from CGS before the start of the NGDS project. As the NGS products have been compiled, however, the products that we can give to our customers are much more extensive and, according to our customers, more useful. On a regional and site-specific scale, individuals and groups have been requesting thermal, spring, and chemistry and geothermal and temperature depth logs for geothermal prospecting. This prospecting has resulted in targeted test wells to be drilled this summer. Compilations of bottom hole temperature data has been in demand from industry groups for both geothermal geothermal and oil prospecting in sedimentary basins. There's been strong interest from one company, Pioneer Natural Resources, to develop an EGS system in the Raton Basin in south-central Colorado. A major well logging company has used the data to model basin temperatures to develop techniques to predict temperatures in sedimentary basins for their own well logging and as a potential saleable service. Next slide, please. An example of one of the temperature gradient maps produced from the bottom hole temperature data is shown here. Only temperatures from the stratigraphic interval from the top of the Mancos to the top of the Dakota were used in producing this map. That's still a total of 20,626 temperatures. As we produced maps from different stratigraphic horizons, the temperature gradients actually changed because the thermal conductivity has changed. Next slide, please. The largest change in CGS data management with the NGDS project has been a unifying and homogenizing of the Colorado geothermal data sets. They're more secure than their previous heterogeneous formats, and in addition, these being served through NGDS, we can also serve them from the CGS. We plan to make them available through the CGS website, possibly using Node in a box. Next slide, please. Ironically, the first geothermal publication for Colorado that I've been able to find is a 1905 publication by a pioneer of Colorado geology, Arthur Lake. 110 years later, Arthur Lake's speculation as to the origin of heat of hot springs, which was deep circulation, is still consistent with the data. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. So I have to apologize. Paul was correct. I had skipped him on the list, so I apologize for that. I want to go ahead and open it up to questions.
This is Lisa. I just had a quick question. So the data sets for the bottom hole temperature, et cetera, are in the Arizona provided content models so that they can be extracted and combined with other states readily? Hello?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lisa.
Okay.
What was the question?
The question
Well, I guess Kim answered it. That you do have the data in content models.
They are in the template format.
Yeah, I went and got a hamburger. Yeah. You hand these to Tara on your way by, though. And I need to know what the percent change was. You took the tables, so if you didn't see
I think that's
yeah. She can come back to her. Just come back and talk to me.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Paul?
Oh, Rick Ellis here again. Paul, there's a lot of useful data there, and I had a quick look yesterday and was curious with the DSTs, since I'd done a similar exercise here in Utah. Was there any issue in just citing the PI Dwights as the data source when it's a sort of a commercial database? Did that appear as an issue or not?
It came up as an issue internally, and I'm just about to submit a complete revised set of data. One of our own staff picked it up that we were not allowed to use the IHS data to publish, and so we have retracted all of those data and went to the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission to replace everything that we got from IHS. It was a good exercise because we found some errors in the IHS data, and we carefully checked everything, so now we will be replacing everything with Colorado data that is publishable. That was an error on my part.
Okay, because I went through the exercise and my argument was I think we've done the same thing, adding value to their database, sorting out, tossing out 2/3 of the stuff which relevant data is not there. So I don't know whether any other states are in the same boat or whether the DSTs are just with ourselves and Utah and Colorado. Maybe Kim knows that.
Two of us actually picked all of the all of the BHTs and DSTs from the well headers, so that's our own data. All of the basic well information such as latitude, longitude, driller's depth came off, logger's depth came off the well headers, driller's depth and all stuff like that came from IHS, and that I don't believe we are allowed to publish, because we sign a license that's just for our internal use.
Yeah, the long and lat you can get somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't found another a free site that you can get exactly that information.
I'm surprised the Colorado Commission doesn't have that XY data for all their wells.
They have it for all the wells, but it's not the same as the IHS data.
Are there any other final questions before we move on to Greg?